welcome to Make Your Passion Pay. I'm Luann Beekler, creator of the Make Your Passion Pay Playbook, your host and guide on this exciting journey to building joyful and successful work environments. Known as the Little Spark, I've helped countless individuals and businesses ignite their potential through transformational coaching, creating thriving businesses and joyful workplaces. I have experienced the challenges of leaving toxic workplaces and building something better. I bring firsthand wisdom to help you align your work with your values. With insights drawn from working alongside world-renowned leaders and a deep passion for community and connection, I'm here to show you how to lead with joy and purpose. Let's dive into today's episode and start making your passion pay. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Luann B. with Make Your Passions Pay, where we cover the 6 C's in the playbook to making your passions pay, building a profit out of that which you love to do. And in the playbook, we talk about 6 C's: clarity, community, connection, collaboration, creativity, and commitment. But my listeners know that we keep finding more words that begin with C, 2 of which are meant to be a part of connection and collaboration, that is core values and culture. And today I am super excited to have with me John Hewitt. John is the Hewitt in Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, after which he founded Liberty Tax Services with over 6,000 offices. John told me today that he just completed his 57th year in the tax business. John sold his interest in Liberty for nearly $5 million. Now John and his partners and friends are helping entrepreneurs discover how to become CEOs and build their own empires. He's the author of a fascinating book, I Compete, and the CEO of Loyalty Brands, which is a collection of 8 other franchised organizations, which I will let him share with you. One of the things when I first met John that I loved was his mantra, having fun, improving lives. Welcome, John.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here. Can I make one little correction?
Sure.
Because it's a big number. You said $5 million. I built 2 $500 million companies. Both Jackson Hewitt and Liberty were public companies worth $500 million.
Sorry for that mistake.
That's okay. It's a big number. It's 100 times bigger.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So tell my listeners about your mantra, having fun, improving lives.
You know, when I was a kid in high school, I was just as confident as I am now. But when you haven't done it, it's not confidence, it's cocky. And so I was considered cocky. And I grew up poor, and I knew I was going to get rich. And I didn't know how, but I knew I was going to because I was so driven. And I thought, well, I'll just make a few $1 million and retire. Along the way, when I began to get rich, began to accumulate wealth by building companies, I realized, what would I do? There's nothing as much fun as what I do. And I believe that having fun is so important. 2/3 of Americans and more than half of the rest of the world, they go to work and they don't enjoy what they do. And I believe you need to live a life of, thank God it's Monday. If you're living a life, thank God it's Friday. That's a wrong life to live. So you have to have fun. Life's too short. And there's nothing more rewarding than improving lives. I mean, in everything I've ever done. I've brought in over 5,000 franchisees that had hundreds of thousands of employees, helped over 1,000 people become millionaires. And there's nothing more fun than improving others' lives.
So are you stating that in the sense of helping your franchisees make millions and be successful owning a franchise?
It's, you know, I help my stockholders, my franchisees, my employees, and even mentored other people. So I've helped a wide variety of people. if you had invested when I started Jackson Hewitt in 1982, August of 1982, we raised $129,000, and the minimum investment was $5,000. 15 years later, that was worth $2 million. So
Wow.
those 12 investors, original investors, did very, very well.
Excellent. Excellent. And I don't think of tax services as helping others because I'm not a numbers gal, but you're training people to save money on their taxes.
You know, I've always enjoyed that aspect of it, that when you're a tax expert, you know things that others don't. And unfortunately, most tax preparers don't take the time to find out about you. You just bring in what you think is deductible, and they'll take it and manipulate it. And they don't ask questions and try to dig for deductions. So there's 10 or 20 or 30% of the time I can save people money. But everyone, virtually everyone, thinks of going to the taxpayers like going to the dentist. So just helping them relax and feel comfortable and feeling at home, you're helping most people just because it's not a pleasant experience for people.
Right. I certainly feel that way the day after tax season. I'll bet many of my listeners do as well. Let's go back to the part of having fun. That's where I like to spend my time. Having fun, improving lives. That's a fantastic way that you look at it. And you said, I want to make this point for my listeners. You said to me the other day, if you're not going to a place you're excited about on Monday morning, then you're going to the wrong place.
Exactly. And that's why I live my life. You know, everyone knows the phrase TGIF, that phrase. No one knows the phrase TGIM. I invented TGIM.
I've seen a book out there that's called Thank God You're Monday. Thank God it's
Really?
Monday. And it's all about employee engagement and wanting to make sure that your employees are excited about coming to work on Monday morning.
You know, one of the things I learned in my career in my 57 years, I started out thinking customers number one, customers number one. And in fact, our mission statement back at Jackson Hewitt in the 90s was winning customers for life. But then about 1995, Herb Kelleher, one of the founders of Southwest Airline, wrote a book called Nuts. And in the book, he illuminated that if you want your customers to be treated as number one, you have to treat your employees as number one. And so he said, it's not customers are number one. You need to start with your employees. And one of the reasons for my incredible blessed success is I understand that employees just don't need to make me happy as CEO. I got to make them happy. And I have to create, and in your 6 C's, I would say you added a couple more, but to me, culture is so misunderstood. Culture is so misunderstood. It's of all the C's, and I love alliteration, so I love your 6 C's, but a culture is the most important in my mind.
Yeah, and all of my C's support culture. I just don't know why I didn't use culture in the C's, but absolutely. And you said that culture is an underappreciated differentiator between great companies and just good companies.
Yeah, Luann, I give people this quiz a lot. I say, what's the difference between the executives at Kmart and the executives at Walmart? And one is a huge success, largest employer in the world, Fortune 100, Fortune 10 company. And they just became worth $1 trillion. One of the few companies ever to be worth $1 trillion. One of the top 5 in the world. And Walmart and Kmart's going down the toilet, and they married Sears and taken them with them. And I said, I've always wondered back in the 90s and wondered what was the difference between the executives at each company, because they kind of were the same. Kmart and Walmart, at one point, I don't know, you're not old enough to remember, but at one point, Sears was number one, and Kmart was number two, and Walmart was number three. And Kmart passed Sears, and they were number one for a minute, and then Walmart went roaring past them. And I said, what's the difference in the employees? Are they, or the executive staff, are they smarter? Are they more experienced? Are they more educated? And in my research, I realized no, you can buy the most experienced person or most educated person or the smartest person, but what you can't buy is culture. And Thomas Edison, senior founder of IBM, said something very, very accurate. He said, "Give me 100 great engineers, or give me 100 people with great attitude. I'll take the people with great attitude because you can teach engineering, you can't teach attitude." And that's my experience in my career. I made the mistake. One of the biggest mistakes of my career is I've tried to change people's attitudes and always, always failed.
Yeah, people need to change their own attitudes.
Exactly.
And you can adopt a positive attitude and choose to be positive. And so, yeah, you got to look for that in people, that they choose to be of a positive attitude in everything they do, just like you were when you first said hello to us, right?
Right. When I wake up every day, I'm happy, and when I go to sleep, I'm happy. And in the meantime, I've aggravated all day long. But you get to choose. You get to choose your attitude. Bad stuff happens to everyone, and the winners just put it aside and keep on going.
Right. Perseverance and resilience come to mind in words.
The number one attribute of success isn't skill, isn't intelligent. It's the number one attribute is perseverance.
Ah, thought you were going to say attitude.
Nope. Attitude is part of perseverance.
Yeah,
right?
True.
But your attitude isn't ever 100% great or 100% bad, right? It goes up and down. Everyone gets hurt and mollified and discouraged at a minute or an hour or a day or a month, and bad stuff happens, right? Bad stuff happens, and it's hard, and you can't always be like things are great, right? So, but you always come back, and the people with the great attitude always get up and keep going. They got to kill me to stop me.
One of my mantras is, based on results, I always land on my feet. So it gets you down, right?
Exactly.
So I learned about culture in my college years, in my hospitality management degree. Culture was a huge conversation, and I was always very surprised after I came out of college that it was not a top conversation in the business community. And still today, some people look at me like, what do you mean?
I feel envious because I didn't learn that until I was about mid-40s.
Wow.
How important culture was.
Yeah. So the other thing that they taught us back then is that your employees are your greatest asset. And you just said it, right? But employees are your greatest asset, and you as CEO owner need to love and take care of your employees.
Yeah, I was 46 years old when I read the book Nuts and really got it.
See, I read that was one of our books we were required to read in my hospitality degree in college, and I love that book as well.
The great news is you're a lot younger than me, so I learned in 1995, so our age difference meant that you got to learn way younger.
It's awesome. That's awesome. So, what advice would you give to people about creating culture?
I learned something in church about 35 years ago. One of my favorite sermons I ever heard. The pastor said, "Every one of us sins every day." And my first reaction was, wow, I get that I do, but he's admitting that he sins every day. And it didn't occur to me until 3 months later. I was driving along and said, wait here. If every single human violates God's principles, then we have principles at Jackson Hewitt. And I was with Jackson Hewitt, CEO. We have principles. And John Hewitt has principles. And if they're violating God's principles, do you think should I think they're listening to John Hewitt's principles? I'm a fool if I believe that. And so I realized that it needs a special attention. And so we went and created a couple of things that differentiate us from our competitors. We have a culture committee. So at each company I've had since then, at Jackson Hewitt, at Liberty, and now at Loyalty Brands, we have a culture that is called the culture. We have a committee called Culture Committee. Their job is to foster culture within the employee ranks. And then I created a tablet of the 10 principles. And it had principle number 1, number 2, number 3, and with a blank space for the name and an explanation. And if someone lived up to the principle, to the culture, you would write them a thank you and tell them what they did. If someone violated it, you would write them up and hand it to them and tell them what they did. And at Jackson Hewitt, there were in virtually everyone's office, they taped them to the wall. Most of them, because people are not good at giving negative criticism, most of them were positive, but there were about a third of them were negative, and even the best people put up the positive and the negative. I remember I was speaking to my staff one time, 400 or 500 employees at an annual employee meeting, and one of the guys in technology came up, Ed Oklovich, and he was so happy and smiling because while I was speaking, he came up and gave me a culture violation. I forget what I did. I parked in the wrong spot or parked in a disabled spot or something. And he was so happy to give me a culture violation in front of 500 people. But you have to realize that no one's perfect and you have to acknowledge your errors.
Well, I think that what's great about that story that you just said, John, is that when a company has, and I call them core values, you're calling them principles, same difference, right?
Exactly. Except yours has a C.
Yeah.
Let's call them core principles.
We could do that.
Right.
Well, when they have a set of core values that everybody knows so well that they can catch when people are doing things right or when they're doing things wrong, it becomes that everybody holds everybody accountable to the same standards. And when that employee feels comfortable to come to you as the CEO and correct a behavior based on core values, you don't feel bad. You go, oh, I made a mistake, right? Like, thank you for catching me because and now I can correct that mistake in the future. And so it's never a shame, blame, corrective kind of negative engagement when that happens. It's positive. And that's what I love about core values, is a way of positive reinforcement. I go to a conference called Culture Con, and at
CON? Culture Con?
Yeah.
CON?
Yep. And one of the presenters last year talked about using for recognition your core values and catch people doing things right. If you fail to catch them doing things right, they stop doing them.
Again, I think that we should align, and other people call it core values. We should change it and call it core principles. Just like people have thank God it's Friday and it should be thank God it's Monday. Let's call it core principles.
Principles.
I think principles are, to me, that's more biblical. It's more of a commandment, or maybe we should call it core commandments. Then there's even more C's. I love alliteration.
I will work on that, right? I'm
Core
looking for principles, though. I can feel principles align with integrity.
Right.
Like I can feel that word when you say principles.
And values is much more nebulous.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to have to shift my language to core principles.
There we go.
Yeah. So you said something earlier I wanted to come back to, right? We were talking about how your employees are your greatest asset. They are an internal customer, is how I was trained in it. right? And so they're still a customer. They're just your internal customer. And a friend of mine wrote a book, Love is Just Damn Good Business. Steve Farber, do you know that name?
I don't.
All right, should look that one up. Love is Just Damn Good Business. It's all about culture, and it's about how we need to love our employees and take good care of them so that they love our customers and take good care of them. So our customers love our company and keep coming back. Customers for life.
And the way I think of it is because no one's perfect, and you have not every employee works out, and so you have sometimes it's tough love, right? And I think of it this way, that my job and my goal is to do what's best for every human being. And sometimes it's not best to be with my company. And I learned a way to say it nicely. I'm sure it's never received nicely, but the way that I say it is, when in the rare times, the 3 to 5 or 10% times that we have to let someone go, I say, you know what? God has a place for everyone to be extraordinary. This is not your place. You need to find somewhere else to be extraordinary.
Ooh, I'm going to borrow that line too. What I have found in the work that I do as a business coach with my clients is that when we really implement the core values, if people are not in alignment with those values, they opt out. So you don't have to let anybody go. People opt out on their own. And
Yeah, that's the best case, and I love that when they realize they're just not fitting in.
yeah. And so I do a workshop with employees inside the company to share and start to implement the core values, and I help them to identify their own. And then I say, how do you align with the company? And
That's
if you don't, choose to opt out.
that's a lot easier. Unfortunately, there are some people that just won't look at themselves honestly.
I think I got a tool that really helps to do that. It's called the passion test.
The
And I
the
help put
passion test.
the passion test. There's a
Okay.
best-selling book over my shoulder, and it helps people to identify their top 5 passions. Are you familiar with Strength Finder, John?
I'm not. Who wrote passion test?
Janet Bray and Chris Atwood.
Okay, I will grab that book.
Yeah, you will
I
like
love
it.
to read.
Good. Well, the Strength Finder is a book as well, and the Strength Finder is now owned by Gallup. And the theory behind the Strength Finder is identify your employees' strengths, natural skills, talents, characteristics that they carry, and let them work in that area.
Peter Drucker wrote that. He's my favorite business author. He wrote that 75 years ago.
Who wrote that?
Peter Drucker. It's called The Effective Executive.
I know that name.
Yeah, he invented that 75 years ago. Peter
So
Drucker. He's the greatest business author ever.
I love it. And you have
Effective Executive.
in the back of your book, you have a list of your favorite business books.
I do.
And his name is in there, so I can refer back to that.
Exactly.
But anyway, so the theory is allow them to work in their strength, which to me means you got to throw out the old job descriptions because they put it in different boxes of common tasks.
This is the way Drucker describes it.
Okay.
He said people with great strengths have great weaknesses.
Yes.
And people that spend their time trying not to have weakness become mediocre. You can either improve on your strengths and build on your strengths and work on your strengths and be effective, your most effective, or you can try to work on your weaknesses, and that just makes mediocre. And he used the great story of the Civil War. He loves telling war stories, and he uses in The Effective Executive. He uses Lincoln's example in the Civil War, and he said he hired a general and he wouldn't do anything. The North, he just sat there, and Robert E. Lee and the South was winning and fighting battles, little battles here and there, and because he didn't want to make a mistake. He didn't want to have a weakness. And then he hired another general, and he lasted 3 months. He didn't fight. He hires Ulysses S. Grant. And Apparently he's an alcoholic, and which is surprising because he became the next president right after the vice president and the next election. But he was winning. He started fighting, and he win two and lose one, win three, lose one, and we were winning the war. And Congress came to Lincoln and said, "Mr. President, you got to fire him. He's an embarrassment to the U.S. Army. At night he's a drunk. He swears and yells and shoots his pistols in the air, and he has this dog on the battlefield. He's just an embarrassment." And Lincoln called his secretary over and said, "James, find the kind of alcohol that Grant drinks and send a barrel to each of my other generals." And most people are like the congressman that went to Lincoln. They don't, if someone misbehaves, if someone has weakness, they will point out that weakness and not appreciate the strength. And
Exactly.
if he had gone too far, if Grant had killed someone when he was shooting his guns or too far, you would have to get rid of him. But you have to decide that people with great strengths, you have to realize that they do have great weaknesses. You just have to decide if you can put up with those weaknesses.
Very good. But recognize the strengths.
Exactly.
Appreciate
hire for strength.
Hire for strengths. Absolutely.
Attitude, number one. Strengths, number two.
Excellent, right? So you can use the Strength Finder to help your people identify their top 5 strengths. It is a test that you can go online and have them take. The passion test it's not a test, it's a process I facilitate people through. John, the book will tell you exactly how to facilitate the process, but never do it alone. So when you read it, let's get back together and I'll take you through the process. It would be interesting.
Great, let's do that.
Okay, before we run out of time here, I want to talk a little bit about the franchise world. I've never worked with a franchisor or franchise owners very frequently, although I forget sometimes what things are actually franchised businesses, right, in my community. And so tell me about creating culture as a franchisor and getting that to move down into the franchisees and from the franchisees to their employees. How's that process? It would seem like, like the game of telephone, and it might get lost in the process.
And you're exactly right. And I've had as many as 2,000 franchisees at once. And so here I am, CEO, and I always changed the org chart till I was at the bottom and customers were at the top. But there's one CEO and millions of customers and thousands of franchises. So how do you not, what I just struggled my whole career with, how does the message go from me to the next level of employee to the next level of employee and not get diluted and changed? Have you ever played the telephone game where, it's always going to get changed. So you know what I did? I invented a way to get around that. And when I was in the tax business for my first 50 years, I was only in the tax business. It's only recently I've got into pets and dogs and cats and so forth. But for 50 years, I was only in taxes. And so I had a conference call, 50 different conference calls during the tax season. Tax season is 105 days old. I have 50 calls and John Hewitt's on the call. So John Hewitt's giving you a message. This is what you should be doing today. So it couldn't be changed, right? None of my employees could alter the message because they heard it from the top. So the only way I found in making that happen was to make sure that I was a very accessible and visible and well listened to CEO. Otherwise, you can't, because I've been so frustrated my whole career that when I tell someone something, then it goes to the next person, they lose value. It just never can get done. So I have to have that impact, that national impact. That's the only way I've been able to solve the problem.
So that's so interesting. So you're telling me that likely a CEO like yourself could use some help with that. And I think as a culture catalyst and culture coach, that I would like to fill that gap and help those CEOs ensure that their franchisees are carrying the message down to their employees so it gets all the way to the consumer. So
if they don't, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So perhaps you and I can have a deeper conversation about that offline as well too.
Great.
A lot of C words in there: culture catalyst, coach. So I really love your energy, your positive attitude, your perseverance after 57 years of all that you've created. Tell my audience about Loyalty Brands a little bit.
We have 8 different brands, and for the first time in the last 8 years, I've gotten out of tax totally. I was totally focused on tax for the first 50 years of my career, and but now I have 2 different. We have 8 franchises with 2 different focuses. One is tax and accounting and advisory, and we're number 1 fastest growing in tax, bigger than Block or Jackson Hewitt or Liberty with tax. And Ledgers, we have an accounting franchise, and Whole Property Management, we manage rental properties. But the most exciting and fun is in pets. And we have 5 different pet brands, and the fastest growing and the most exciting, because it's the fastest growing pet brand of any in the country. And it's the largest mobile grooming. And I love the name. It's Zoom Grooming. So we focus on 2 things: everything pets, and then tax and accounting and advisory. Tax, and I've always done that for 57 years. That grows every year by 1%. But pets is exploding. And so we love the pet industry, and we're the best at everything pet in the country.
That's fantastic. So it's Zoom and Grooming and Hike Doggy.
Yeah, we have Zoom and Grooming, Hike Doggy,
Salty Dog,
Cooper Scoopers, and now we have Dog Wizard. We have a training organization where they train dogs. So we aligned with a training organization.
Excellent. I know a dog trainer here in my community very well. I'll have to tell her about that.
Awesome.
So for all my listeners, loyaltybrands.com is John's website, and we'll make sure it's in the show notes as well. Pick up a copy of his book, I Compete, How My Extraordinary Strategy for Winning Can Be Yours. Super cool. All his recommended reading is in there, and check out the brands that he has created, and maybe it's a franchise for you. Also, John's book is available for free on the website for you as my listeners. So go grab a copy of the book. I almost missed that. Anything else, last words you want to say to our audience today, John?
My general life philosophy is find something you love to do, work hard, persevere.
Excellent. I love that. Falls right in line with making your passion pay. So in honor of John today, I'm closing. Have fun and improve people's lives. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Make Your Passion Pay. If today's episode inspired you, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a rating, and share your thoughts in a review. Every listener makes a difference in spreading this mission of joy and purpose. Want to take the next step? Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, or anyone looking to build a thriving, values-driven workplace. Together, we can create communities where passion fuels success. Until next time, remember, when you lead with joy, you inspire greatness. Let's keep making your passion pay.